In today's video, I'm going to show you a really tiny little power station that has 500 watt hours of juice. What's up everybody? My name is Dan. Welcome to Freely Roaming. This is a product called Tigfox by a company called Wanroy. It's another Chinese battery power station. They reached out to me and wanted me to test this thing out, which I thought was really cool because it is really small. It's about half the size and half the weight as other lithium power stations are. And it has more or less the same features. There are some negatives with this as well, so I will go over that with you guys today. So first thing first, let me tell you guys a little bit of specs about this power station. According to their website, this is actually a 540 watt hour battery pack. It is only 5.5 kilograms. Like I said, it's about half the weight as other comparable power stations with similar capacities. It's really well built. The exterior is a really nice plastic. It doesn't feel cheap, it feels really solid. And the whole construction feels really solid as well. A simple screen in the front, 3 USB-A ports, 1 USB quick charge, and 1 USB-C power delivery. There are also 3 barrel ports in the front. One of them is for DC charge, which is using the included power supply. This is a 12.6 volt power supply that can deliver 9.2 amps. So you should be able to charge at around 110 watts. So that means you can charge this up with this included power supply or this included charger in about 4 to 5 hours. There's also a DC out, which is used by this little dongle. It's a barrel plug to cigarette lighter dongle. So you do have to plug this in if you want to use any kind of 12 volt devices through the cigarette lighter port. It is a little bit inconvenient to have to do this, but on the other hand, it makes this unit really small. And then lastly, there's a car charge port that also you can plug into your vehicle cigarette lighter charger. So AC charge, DC out, and car charge through a cigarette lighter. There's also 2 buttons, really simple in the front, just the on and off over here. And then the small button down here is for this LED light on the top and the LED light in the back. The LED light on the top is a bit of a novelty, I think. When you press the button once, you get this kind of party light action. It blinks in different colors and then it stays at a red. It's not really bright, but you can kind of see, and it kind of alternates between red, green, and maybe one other color, and blue. If you press the button one more time, you get this little light. This is far more useful for like camping situations. So if you're sitting at a picnic table like I am here in the dark, you can just have this thing on the table, charge your phone. You can turn on this light so you can kind of see what you're doing. It's not going to be a super bright light where you're going to be able to light up a whole area, but it is nice if you just want some light to be able to have some peripheral vision, some night vision. This is really nice for that. And then you press it a third time. Both of them turn on. You have the party lights on top, and then you have this light that stays on. And then a fourth time, that turns it all off. And in the back here, as you can see, this is where your AC outlet is. This is a 500 watt pure sine wave inverter, and they're just one socket. And again, that's because this is a super compact power station. And to turn that on, you just press this once. You hear a beep. Now your AC outlet is on. The screen is really simple in the front, so I'll show you what it actually looks like. The screen there just has a bunch of icons, and the icons show you what is being activated at the moment. So if you have, let's say, a 12 volt lighter socket device plugged in, it'll highlight that as being used. And if you have an AC outlet plugged in, it'll highlight that as being used. There is no sort of capacity level besides this little battery icon. You can see I just did a capacity test, so it's drained all the way down right now. I just got about, I don't know, maybe 10% charge back in there, so I can kind of show you these features. It would be nice if they had a more accurate reading of the battery capacity. I would have liked to see maybe a percentage. Again, it's a small screen. There's not a lot of frills with this device. its main selling feature, it's its compact size. So it has some pretty standard features as far as safety protections go. It's got built-in overload, short circuit protection, over voltage protection. Capacity again is 540 watt hours, and that is a 10.8 volt 3S battery with 50 amp hours of capacity. So that tells me that this is a 3.6 volt nominal per cell battery in a 3S configuration. That also tells me that it is most likely a lithium nickel manganese cobalt oxide battery, which is the type of lithium battery that has one of the densest battery capacities. And I suspect they chose that chemistry so that they can build such a compact power station. Through the car charge port, it could charge at a max rate of 8 amps using 12 volt DC. You can also do solar charge with a max rate of 6 amps up to 18 volt. You can plug that directly in. And also the other cool little feature is that you can actually charge this over USB-C. If you have USB-C power delivery, you can charge at 65 watts, which is about 20 volts and about 3 amps. You can charge it through this. You can also reverse that current and discharge out of that same port as well. I think that's a pretty neat feature. In the output, obviously we have the DC 12 volt, and that's a 10 amp port right here. The two USB-A ports on top are 2.4 amps each, while the third one down here with the quick charge has a capacity of up to 18 watts, which is either 5 volts at 3 amps, 9 volts at 2 amps, or 12 volts at 1.5 amp. AC outlet, it is 110 volt, 60 hertz, has a 500 watt output max with a 850 watt surge. Before we go into some of the experiences that I've had with this power station, let me go and show you how this performed in a discharge test. All right, so this has been going for 4 hours and 11 or 12 minutes. And we've hit 405 watt hours. That's actually pretty good, but it is down to a really low voltage, 8.89 volts. And because this is not a regulated output, for practical purposes, this is not going to be really good for 12 volt appliances. I would say if you're going to get something like this, you're going to want to use it for primarily the AC inverter in the back. It is doing pretty good though as far as capacity goes. I'm not sure how much longer it's going to go, but it's over 400 watt hours now. This thing is still chugging along. I think, oh, there it goes. We just caught it. 486 watt hours. So this is a 3S lithium ion battery with a 3.6 volt per cell nominal voltage. So it's got a discharge voltage of each cell at around 2.8 volts. So that was about right. You got to like 8.4 volt range, and then the BMS cut it off. So I'm pretty impressed actually. This one squeezed out 486 watt hours. It's just that it's lithium ion 3S, so you're not going to get the as good of 12 volt voltage level for a lot of 12 volt appliances. But assuming that the AC inverter is able to convert or invert power until the battery's drained, you should be able to squeeze out most of its capacity. Also, the cigarette lighter socket is not exactly a very efficient way of discharging power from these banks. So this is actually quite warm. It's almost too warm to touch. So there's some efficiency loss right there too. So I wouldn't be surprised without that lost, we might have gotten close to 500 watt hours on this little battery bank. It's neat. It's tiny and actually has the capacity that it claims to have. So let's get a little bit charged in there, and then I'll tell you guys what I think about this power station. So as you can see, this performed really well in the discharge test. The only downside, the biggest downside to me, is that this is not a regulated 12 volt output. So as the battery voltage started to sag, being that it's a 3S nickel manganese cobalt chemistry, it went down as far as 8.5 volts, which For a lot of 12 volt devices, that is just not going to cut it. However, the capacity is there. So I think if you're using the AC inverter, you'll probably get much more stable voltage. Or if you were using some kind of adapter that lets you regulate that output, it's going to work a lot better for your 12 volt devices as well. I would say what this is good for, it's really good for somebody who needs AC power when they're out camping and they want to have a really compact sized device. And also, if you want to carry this around to, let's say, like a coffee shop, you want to work from the road or you want to work while traveling, this is so small that it's not like carrying a huge battery pack, and also having 540 watt hours of capacity. I guess realistically 480 and change watt hours of usable capacity. It'll charge a MacBook Pro almost 4 times. So I think that's pretty impressive. A couple of the quirks that I noticed is that you cannot actually charge through AC and DC at the same time. So when you try to charge through this AC port using this charger, and you try to charge through a 12 volt socket, it will create a fault and both chargers will stop charging. So you have to choose one or the other. And the other thing that I noticed too is that you can't charge and discharge at the same time. So it doesn't have pass-through charging. I was hoping to be able to use this for my Starlink and almost use it like an uninterrupted power supply. So I can have the Starlink plugged into the back through the AC outlet and have the charger just constantly feed this battery bank. So the battery will stay charged when the sun is out. I can turn off charging at night when I'm not charging through solar, but I can't do that with this one. So that is another downfall, is that it doesn't have pass-through charging. I think the last downside that I will say is that when the fan kicks on, it is quite loud. It is actually louder than I would have expected. But at the same time, it's also because it's built into such a compact case. So it has to have some kind of fan to be able to cool all that heat that's generated on the inside. All in all, I really actually quite like this little power station. It's got its problems for sure. I just haven't seen such a small power station with this much battery capacity. It might not be for everyone, but I think this is a perfect little device for a lot of use cases. I hope you guys found this video useful. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below. And if you have any personal experience with this particular battery bank, I'd love to hear about it. Thanks as always for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.